So it's looking good. All right. So welcome to our first board meeting. And thank you once more for accepting. It means a lot for us to have you and the others as our advisors in this. So we need advice right now. That's why we reached out. There's a couple of points we would like to go through. So first, we do a little update round where we all stand, and that includes you. So everybody, just a brief download what's going on. Then Sebastian, I will give you an update on the potential prototypes in the 4 locations, on the fundraising process, and then on specifically on the South African team, there's some issues we need to discuss. And then if there's anything else you would like to throw in, we can do that. Okay. So we basically started number 1 already, but I've been talking a lot. So I'd love to hear from all of you what's life for you at the moment. In a minute or two, what's happening for you? Luther, you don't want to begin?
Yeah. So we've been, well, for Price Valley, we've been, just doing what we do. But we recently opened at the second city, which is Abuja. And, the team has grown from, I don't know where we at the last time I was here, but we are now about 60 people. And so operations has really matured. And we are currently expanding and increasing capacity. And we've been testing other models around what we are doing. And we have seen, really good growth on the B2C end of things, also on the B2B. So we also have plans to get to other cities by the first quarter of next year. And what else? It's just been a lot of activity and a lot of growth, and that's like how best I can put it. But personally, I've also just been dealing with a lot because of Price Valley. I've been traveling a lot, and it's been fun, but it's also been very stressful. But it's, the results are there, so it's very encouraging at the end of the day. I think that best summarizes my experience in the past 4 or 5 months, if I'm not wrong.
Wow, great steps. Cool. Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, sounds great. So maybe we can catch up on that, but if you need also maybe help from the rest of the crew here, yeah, if you have any things you'd like to discuss or have a question, so feel free to ask us. So we're also there for you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, sure. Thanks.
So Nessu's coming. Connecting to audio. Kipto, do you want to continue?
Yes, yeah. Sorry, I have to be off video for a bit. Don't
worry.
But yeah, it's we're carrying on as well as Trende. We have, we are still very much at the 0 to 1 phase ourselves. Since we last spoke, we have refined our focus around working with third-party logistics service providers, as well as their customers more directly. So going after businesses, particularly SMEs, e-commerce players, manufacturers, distributors, and looking to onboard those guys as well as our primary customers. The idea is that they also run their own logistics operations internally, and they need a good part of the tools that we're building. So at the moment, the key product we focused on is really a suite of tools that allows these operators to digitize their day-to-day. And that's very much what we're still focused on, heavily on product and building the sales team, sales process, and a team of 9 people total, all based in Nairobi. And we still haven't really gone to any other markets yet. We are first trying to really nail what we are selling, and at the moment it's communications and tracking tools to allow logistics organizations to operate more efficiently. So that's really what is front and center of our minds at the moment, and hopefully looking to move across other geographies, but more likely next year. Yep, that's the main updates I've got for you.
And a new child coming. That's great.
Oh yes, of course. New baby on the way. We're really excited for that in January, mid-January, hopefully. And it will get crazier and crazier, but hopefully we'll be prepared.
Yeah.
Never prepared.
No, you cannot prepare for it. Just let it go.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Thank you, Kipto. Anesu, happy to have you here. Can you hear us? Anesu, you're muted. Okay, you can. We were just doing a little update round. Do you want to share how you're doing, what's happening for you at the moment, before we go into the matter of things, of the middle of things of Motherland? No. Okay, Sebastian.
Yeah, so I'm busy with a couple of things besides Motherland. So I'm currently teaching a lot at the business school here in Berlin, now focusing around the topic of sustainability, regeneration, and technology. Now I have a full class here with 25 students that want to be pleased, with great content and great discussions, but it's also a pleasure doing that for myself, learning a lot. Then I am doing a couple of consultancy projects on the sidelines, so to say. And then I have another project where Thomas also is involved, called in German Initiative Regenerative Marktwirtschaft, which is translated in English, Initiative for a Market-Based Regenerative Economy, where we are currently founding an association to create a new guiding principle for our economy in Germany, but that will be also applicable to everywhere else, where we state that we need to switch our mode of our economy from extraction to regeneration, and doubling down and working by the rules, so to say, of nature, because nature does regenerate, but right now we are extracting at a pace that nature cannot keep up with its pace of regeneration, and that's why we are going to run into deep trouble, and therefore we need to switch the way of how we do our economic life as actors in a society.
So loading even more on our shoulders.
But maybe just to add, I think that is really kind of the wide brackets yeah, where also the whole initiative of Motherland, as you know, is fitting in perfectly. And Motherland is just an example of applying regenerative thinking and acting, in Africa. Yeah, and so because that's at the core of our concept with Motherland anyhow. Yeah.
Okay. So should we quickly go through well, not so quickly, just go through the 4 current points of discussion on the continent so you all know where we're at, and give us your potential thoughts and feedback. Interrupt us at any point. I'm going to start with Ethiopia, and we're going to go through Nigeria, Ghana, and then finally South Africa, because I think that's the natural transition to another topic. So in Ethiopia, we're working with a lady named Kume, who has started an organization called Afro Valley. And she has a very, very aligned vision of what needs to happen with what we are doing in Motherland. Her focus, her difference in focus is that she was from the beginning thinking of putting the local economic structure that happens in the village onto a distributed ledger. She has an MOU with a district that is home to 400,000 smallholder farmers. And a week ago, she had a 2-day workshop with a couple of hundred of them to find out some of our core questions, which were around an old indigenous or original governance system called GADA, which might also be familiar to you, Kipto, because it spans all the way from Ethiopia to Kenya. But it's more or less pushed out of the way by the Western types of governance.
Yeah, but also by the centralization, because it was a decentral governance system, especially for those regional areas. Yeah, and to have central control, they pushed it away to replace it with a central controlled governance system.
Yeah. So she received a lot of positive feedback from the farmers, and the idea basically is to bring them together into a cooperative, run that cooperative on the governance structure of GADA loosely, and put all the transactions that happen within the cooperative onto a distributed system. In order to get there, we are currently we opened conversations with an organization called Seeds that is focusing on exactly that, enabling communities and villages with a internal economics mechanism and their own governance structure. And we will begin to run workshops between Afro Valley and Seeds in order to see how that can be pulled off. Obviously, that is going to be, or that is already slowed down by what's going on in Ethiopia. We're hoping to have a workshop on Monday, half-day workshop with Kume to move this forward. The second one is in Nigeria. There's a district called Malumfashi. Maybe Luther, you're familiar with that. And the person we're speaking with is also named Malumfashi. His name is Shehu Malumfashi.
Where is it from? Do you know the states it's from?
I can send you a link.
It's in the north of Nigeria.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Mm.
Yeah, and Mr. Malumfashi, who is or was the chief, I'm not sure, of that county. We got connected by him to him by a friend of us who has worked with him on the ground on agroforestry projects. Yeah, and regenerate and implementing permaculture into farming. Yeah, so there is a good connection, and it's not coming out of the blue, so to say. Yeah, but there is, and what also showed was that Mr. Malumfashi is really, really engaged. Yeah, he's driving 1.5 hours to have a video call with us, one way. Yeah, and then back. So I think that's real engagement, and he's really delivering on spot. Yeah, so when he says there will be feedback or writing you something together, he's writing it to the date he set. So I think that's really encouraging, right?
Yeah, and one of the recent happenings was exactly that. He totally executed that, which was, we said we want to have a lady in the lead on the ground, and he immediately lined up 3 young, very, very impressive ladies that we can now basically choose from to do this. So this is he's super quick. So that's a lot of fun.
So what does it do?
What does he do?
Yeah.
He used to be consulted to the government. He has a company that has a farm there in that area. He is, I don't know how old he is. How old what do you think Sebastian is?
Oh,
Beginning of 60, something like that.
Something like that.
Hard. It's hard to say. Yeah.
But he's more thinking about leaving a legacy than about any gaining profits or anything. So his profits would be legacy. That's absolutely clear.
Interesting. He lives in Castina. That's like the real north of Nigeria. It's good to know about him. So you can go ahead.
So there we're in the process of identifying which of the 3 ladies we want to go with, and then running a workshop together with Shehu and the lady, and see have a very clear definition of what we want to do there. Also in Ethiopia we will do the same, but in both we will record a video with the lady. So in Nigeria with whoever we choose, in Ghana, in Ethiopia with Kume, describing in her own words what the project is all about, because that will help us with the fundraising, because we need to make it absolutely crystal clear that that whatever the funds are that we raise, they aren't meant for 2 white guys, but they're actually for projects on the ground with people on the ground. So that's the next steps that are going to happen there. In Ghana, we were working with a foundation based in London, run and founded by a lady from Benin who's working for Microsoft, and she brought in a lady on the ground who has an organization that has helped 25,000 women in Ghana to become landowners, so be self-sufficient. That is not so easy in Ghana, and she's done that basically all her life. She inherited from her mother.
Were actually widows, yeah, who lost their land after the death of their husband, and because they had to give it back to the husband's family, yeah, and then this organization helped the woman to get some land, yeah, to take care of their self-sufficiency and self-reliance from that land.
Mhm. And we also have somebody on the ground that is the perfect candidate for helping us with the process on the ground. Sebastian Feldman, you might have met him in some of the early calls. And unfortunately, this is now all delayed because Abigail, that's the name of the lady on the ground, is super busy for the next couple of months. So we will get back into that loop only next year. That's a bit unfortunate because we were really hoping, and it looked like there was progress happening. And then finally, South Africa. So in South Africa, as you know, we went through this long process of identifying a partner. That happened. Then there was an organization called Chivhase Agridam that we're going to work with. I need to move places here because there's cleaning happening here. So the Agridam, Chivhase Agridam, and but now it seems to kind of like stuck in that position, and that is one of our concerns. That also there, the situation is there's a chief who has installed a young lady for the operations of Chivhase Agridam, and Herman, who you know, was there to do a workshop with them and with the surrounding community, and from there on, it kind of like grinded to a halt. And I want to leave it there for now. Are there any questions about the 4 prototypes, or any feedback, any thoughts that you have on this? You're muted, Luther.
Are any of the prototypes further ahead than the other? Like, is one close to starting off, or are they all at the prototype level? Are they you know?
They're all more or less at the same level. They're all very early. They all could begin the work very, very quickly, but it would still be a lot of learning in that prototype. So it's not a fixed thesis that we would be following or anything.
Yeah. So for the Nigerian person, what's the idea? Which of these activities do you want to implement, and what's that like? Together.
Yeah. So what? In essence, in all 4, we want to follow the same schema. So we want to identify a small group of smallholder farmers, bring them together, and identify their most pressing needs. We have a strong hypothesis from our almost 2 years of work what these needs are. They're going to be in market access, they're going to be in logistics, and they're going to be in refinement and storage, and mostly. And then we will identify 2, maybe 3 innovations or technological solutions or startups that can solve these. So that's why I was also reaching out to both of you, Kipto and Luther, today, because we can totally see, for example, there's a village in the Malumfashi district, there's 5,000 people. Let's put 40 farmers into a cooperative and start delivering goods to those to the community, to that village. Right now, we could I can see how Price Pally could play a role there. I could also see how Twende could play a role there. Right, that is what we aim to build. So the phases would be: phase 1, establishing trust with the community, identifying their needs; phase 2, phase 3, bringing in solutions; and phase 4, hardening and testing all that process. That would be the full prototype.
Makes sense. Is this like an NGO vehicle or like a business startup?
So in order to pull this off, we need to we believe we need to be for profit in the middle. So the IP that is generated will flow into a non-profit. So the IP is protected by a non-profit. In order to scale this after the prototype, only after the prototype, in order to scale this, we believe there needs to be a for-profit for scaling that also can generate return on invest for investors. And finally, we believe that it is the best, probably the best exit path also for those for-profit organizations to sell to the community. So turning the for-profit into a cooperative that is then owned by the people who actually use it. That's the schema.
Okay, got it.
And we're working with a big consultancy firm. They're doing this for free in Berlin to set up the legal structure for this so that it actually works.
Maybe to add to that, how to operationalize that. So as for example, just stick to what you do with Price Pally. Yeah, so it's not the aim, so to say, that you set up necessarily a business then in Malum Fashi. Yeah, but what you have created also is the IP and the software, yeah, that is needed to set up such an market access tool for agricultural produce. Yeah, and the question is, yeah, if this is also applicable, yeah, let's say with a local partner, yeah, that we support to set things up so that this is sustainably operation in that city or in that area, yeah, so that would give you or any other company the chance to scale in such regional areas, yeah, which you probably otherwise wouldn't do because it's too small and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Does it make sense?
Makes sense.
Okay, cool.
That's good to hear. Yeah, because I think to come to this level of self-sufficiency and self-reliance, yeah, and it will be key, as far as we have learned, to implement existing technologies, yeah, that are supporting the setup of such more efficient and effective structures on site. Yeah, and this is actually missing in many of those areas. And what we do is putting those things together and taking care of that the implementation is working well. Yeah, and so and therefore we need to define the scope of what we are going to implement, and it will probably look different in different locations. Yeah, but this is what our work then on the ground, with the startups we are partnering with will look like, but we don't expect in this prototype that the startups are necessarily sending stuff to the ground, at least not all the time. But maybe if you're in Nigeria and the prototype is in Nigeria, it makes sense to do at least some work together on the ground to show the team how to set it up. Yeah, so in the end, there shouldn't be so much of an effort for a startup like you. Yeah, and it will be implemented then by a team, that we set up on the ground, and that is creating the value for the community, but also for you as a participating startup on the ground.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the state of the funding at the moment. So there was or is an opportunity to get a small amount of 30,000 euros from a yet unnamed foundation in Germany. They were discussing giving it to us, but they then drew back because what they saw was not African enough for them. So they wanted to have a real project on the ground, and what they saw was two white dudes. So that was an issue.
So that was the one thing, and the other thing was at the beginning when I had the first conversations with them, we only had the prototype location in South Africa, and they said we are not going to run a project in South Africa because there are other countries that need it more. Yeah, and I think those two combined were a lot of learnings regarding, okay, we need to set up a decent and well-prepared and fundable project with a strong African partner on the ground. And it's not so much about funding Motherland, but funding the project on the ground with some Africans with a social entrepreneurial background for the local community on the ground. And that's why, as we said right from the beginning, we are an orchestrator, and that means we want to bring the right people together, to run the implementation project on the ground. And this is what we are doing now from a fundraising strategy point of view.
So there's some outreach, not a lot, but some outreach, and also positive feedback from similar foundations, but nothing has materialized so far in that respect. We another route that we could go into is a friend of ours is building something that's loosely related to what we do, but in Puerto Rico, and he is willing to take this to some forward-thinking Silicon Valley investors. But for that, we need to flesh out the investment case, and not so much the philanthropic case.
Yeah, and also to add on the fundraising, we realized, as I mentioned before, it's all about funding the project on the ground. It's not so much about funding Motherland, which we will profit from that a lot because we are doing things on the ground, which will be paramount to progress. Yeah, but it's about funding the project, and therefore we need to have a decent project description with the right people on the ground, which we are currently working on, or working for months now. And we were kind of stuck, and we will come to that in South Africa because there was mainly no progress here. And that's why we also really doubled down on the other opportunities. Yeah, and right now we are preparing the documentation for the fundraising for those projects. Yeah, and only if we have that, we can catch up with a lot of contacts we had earlier this year, to see if there is funding opportunities in the network or in specific foundations that are doing projects in Africa as well. But we also learned during the process, pre-fundraising, so to say, reaching out to the network, that Germany and also German philanthropists and foundations are not very active in Africa. Yeah. So, and there is way more going on in Switzerland and the Nordics and the UK and so on. Yeah. But Germany is really hesitant to invest philanthropic money in Africa. Yeah, which makes it for us a little more difficult, but we are going to solve that. Another way is, especially for the project in Ethiopia, yeah, I had contact with a foundation out of the DeFi blockchain sphere, yeah, which, as you probably guess, they made a hell lot of money in the last couple of years, and they're setting up a foundation to fund unlikely projects in Africa. Yeah, and so that sounds like a good match, yeah, for a project like ours. Yeah, and as soon as we have the pitch deck prepared from Kume, yeah, for Ethiopia, we are also going to apply to that fund.
Yeah. Well, time is of the essence. We have like 15 minutes left.
Yeah,
is there anything you would like to respond or say to that feedback, thoughts?
I wanted to have a better understanding. So it's clear to me that what the investors you've approached, it's more likely that they want to fund a particular project. But what does that look like in terms of what it is in for Motherland, as in you're orchestrating, you're linking people together, perhaps even linking particular projects with funding sources. How does Motherland benefit from that? In a way, it's a rehash of the organizational model question from earlier from Luther. But
I would say we profit the most by running a real project with the Motherland approach on the ground, and it will be mainly having this, so to say, proof of concept, yeah, the validation and the learning, and that will be the prerequisite to really go into a larger fundraising round for setting up Motherland for scale. Yeah, because otherwise we also learned going for large foundations, yeah, that could, let's say, finance 10 of those projects. Yeah, we cannot do that before we haven't shown any proof, yeah, by a project on the ground. Yeah, and that's why we decided, okay, let's put Motherland, so to say, in the background. Yeah, but from a branding perspective, so to say, yeah, but put Motherland also in the center of the operation, yeah, to ensure learning out of this prototype.
So more concretely, Motherland is entering into a partnership with a particular organization, let's say Afro Valley in Ethiopia, and the output, the product is, let's say, whatever the community is producing, the GABA governance system being applied to run cooperatives more efficiently, in a more transparent way, and so on and so forth. That's an example, of course. Does it mean that the IP to that product is now shared between Motherland and Afro Valley, or what would it look like, so that it's something you can scale across to other places?
Exactly. So it's exactly shared. Yes.
Okay.
So the MOU we have is with those organizations is that all the IP can be used collaboratively or individually by the organization for that end of the shared collaboration. So in other words, they cannot use it for organizing military. We could object to that, but if they do continue to do the same thing, and basically also be a competitor to Motherland, that would be welcome and possible. Yeah.
Got it. So, yeah. Okay. I see. Makes sense now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool.
Welcome, Elizabeth.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we're I think we're all busy. We're running out of time. We have 11 minutes left, and it's still an important issue that we need to run by you. And that is, we're kind of like running into communication issues with our friend Herman in South Africa. There has been extensive communication by email coming mostly from him repeatedly that revealed that he doesn't really understand what we're doing, to put it bluntly. So he basically says, well, is it about startups? Where are the startups that we want to bring in? We tell him, well, we don't know because we have to have the community first, and things like that. So misunderstandings in many crucial aspects of what we're doing. And we acknowledge that he has done a lot of engagement and a lot of work for and with Motherland, but he's slowing us down immensely, and we wanted to get your perspective on that, and maybe Sebastian, before we open it into your perspective on Herman, maybe you can add your words to this. And finally, this will obviously, whatever is being said here will stay in this round. So we will make sure that this stays private.
So I think you put it all nicely. So I think the issue is the misunderstanding, but also then the way of how he is dealing with it. Yeah, and so there is, and you know also Herman, that he sometimes is then doing a blame game, yeah, and seeking for responsibilities inside of a group whom is not he, yeah, and so that's causing obviously disruption also regarding the group in South Africa, which we value also a lot. Yeah, and we need to a good way of dealing with that, and therefore we wanted to ask you, what is your opinion on that?
Yeah, so I was going to ask about him because I thought he was going to be on the call, given that he was always very active. So I wouldn't really know how to advise, but if you think that he still has, you know, a lot of value to add to the projects, then possibly sit down and talk to him, or have a third party, hear him out so that he can come back to the team and add value. But if that won't be possible, then if the effect of his opinion is slowing you down, then yeah, you might have to let him go, or depending. I don't know how far you've spoken to him about this, or how much you guys have tried to solve the problem. If there's still a way to solve it, I would advise you do, because I think it's very valuable to the team. And, you might just have to help him see what you're saying, or also listen to him so that you know what he's trying to say. Yeah, that would be what I can add to it, since I'm not really in the loop of what exactly happened or how it happened.
Yeah, sounds totally sensible. I believe we have tried that. We went through numerous circles of reiterating what we believe we're doing, and the same patterns started reoccurring. What we would really love to do is to have him as an advisor, but not as the front runner. Now, every time there was a young, energetic front runner, he seemed to disapprove of that person. So we're not sure whether there's also some ego issue at work that prevents him from accepting somebody else taking the lead. And we don't know. That is also a concern.
Yeah, and actually there's kind of a reoccurring pattern. Yeah, we had that with Lebo, and he played that game. I don't know if you were in the call, really addressing that to Lebo in the call. Yeah, so there were kind of a dispute in front of the rest of the group, and it reoccurred with Guguletu. Yeah, which was also kind of a very energetic young woman and smallholder farmers with a great outreach to her community. And we had another case where someone promising was in the call, and then he disapproved after the call with this guy. Yeah, so somehow we don't know exactly, but our interpretation of that is that he wants to be in the lead, yeah, and to do that. But on the other hand side, it's not really making progress. So we don't have any problem with he is in the lead, that things are really progressing, yeah. But because of the seems not to understand what Motherland is all about on the one hand side, but on the other hand side, what really needs to be done in an efficient and effective way, yeah, that leads us to some kind of not so much of a progress in the last couple of months, yeah, and but still spending a lot of time in sense making and try to somehow keep everything together, yeah. But in the end, it also showed that the Monday call, yeah, became a South African call, yeah, and it was really about a lot of sense making, which then also might get some other people, yeah, from Africa bored about just all these South African topics. Well, that's why also we decided to separate those calls, yeah, to have really kind of more working style like meetings that are effectful to the people that are taking the time to join the call.
Help me understand. Do you see it as more of a miscommunication, misunderstanding issue, or misalignment of vision? Or is it something in the middle?
Of what?
So perhaps is it an issue with a misalignment of vision of what Motherland should be, or is it a misunderstanding on his part about what Motherland broadly is trying to do?
So I don't know really, but I believe that it is more a misunderstanding. So I used to think that it is more a difference in vision, but he seems to have a real issue grasping the full concept of what we're talking about here, right? And that might just be, I mean, as tough as it is, it might just be a function of age. That he doesn't see the world in the same digital way that we here do on that call, right?
Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
How that interplays with the other concern, which, if I had it right, was about the leadership function and perhaps letting other folks contribute. Yeah. I don't know. I can't say I have advice straight out of the butt. It helps me to think about these and perhaps gather more. But hopefully at least trying to figure out whether it's more of the miscommunication or misalignment would be helpful.
So this is really an issue that bothers us because we want to acknowledge his all of his work, but on the other hand, we also want to move forward. So, and we're not going to solve this here in this call. specifically not because I'll have a couple of people waiting in a minute or two in my next call. But it would be really, really helpful if you could reflect on that, all of you, and maybe give us give us your thoughts individually, or I'm always happy to have a call on that.
All right.
Okay, can do that.
But what I also did was just to check what
Wonderful. So it feels like we could speak for another 2 hours, but I think we should bring our first little board meeting to the end. So thank you for listening, and I'll post a recording on our WhatsApp chat. Please don't share it with others. It's just for us here on the board, and Sebastian and me. And if there's anything that you want to contribute, just reach out. Any thoughts, feedback, anything.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you for your time and your advice and ideas. We keep you up to date.